Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Ocean Steward Spotlight. Today we have Natalia Teryda, who is a PhD student at the University of Florida, who has been involved in marine conservation efforts and projects since the age of 14. She holds a master's degree in marine biodiversity and conservation from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at UC San Diego, as a Fulbright Grantee, and a bachelor's in science and biology from the Universidad Nacional de Mar del Plata. Originally from Mar del Plata, Argentina, she was selected by the U.S. Embassy in Argentina to be the Argentinian Youth Ambassador, our Ocean's Young Ambassadors program, organized by the U.S. Department of State. Nati, thank you for being here today.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure.
Well, I just want to begin by opening the floor to allow you to tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and where you're from and how you became involved in marine conservation.
Yeah, so I'm from Argentina, as Melissa said. I've been involved in conservation since I was kind of young. When I was 14 years old, I started taking care of penguins as a result of a science fair project at school. And from then I started getting more and more involved with every year that passed, and I went to school, to university to become a biologist, and with every step I got more in love with oceans and ocean conservation, and I ended up finding my special niche. After working with penguins, I found my niche with sea turtles, which is what I work with right now. And as you said, I'm doing my PhD here at the University of Florida in Florida, and I'm working with sea turtles in South America. I wanted to continue my research down there because it's my home, and I wanted to contribute a little bit more to our country and the region's conservation efforts for sea turtles.
Great. So let's start with your master's in San Diego. What was that research like, and how was that transition from moving from Argentina to the United States?
Oh, that transition was incredible, hard, exciting, and so many adjectives that I could think of right now. Coming from Argentina, it's a big cultural change to move from South America to North America. And San Diego is such a special place. It was amazing, and Scripps as a school was so welcoming. I met so many great, amazing people there, all my classmates and everyone. It was every single aspect of it made the whole transition and experience wonderful. Like, I can't complain. I'm so thankful for that. And in the sense, in regards to the academic program and the research, it was incredible because as I told my current advisor, I felt like I was in Disney World for really nerd kids. That's how I described it. My research was more theoretical than hands-on in the field, but I dealt with economic market transfer effect of bycatch regulations on sea turtles, and how the market and the demand and supply for a certain species of fish was affecting how the species was getting conserved in other places in the world that fish was coming from. So regulations that were put in place here in the US, how it affected the bycatch of those turtles in other places like Brazil, Ecuador, and I did Canada as well, which at the time were the main importers of swordfish, which is what I was working with. So it was really interesting, something that I've never done before, and I thought it was really something that at that time it made sense on something that I wanted to expand on, because I've been working before then with marine debris and pollution, and going more into regulations and market affecting the conservation was something that kind of called me in a sense, and I was really happy about it because it was super interesting, and I open-minding in a sense.
And your research, when you were finally done with it, what did it show?
Well, it showed that if you just set regulations in a certain part of the world, let's say US, but it could be anywhere else in the world, just thinking about having a conservation result in that place without taking into account, the market. Like we are talking about fisheries, but the fisheries effect on the turtles is not the only thing. You have that fishery because people want that species of fish, and they will keep buying it. And if the country or the region doesn't have that supply of fish, they will import it from other parts of the world. And that is where that transfer effect happens. You are taking turtles or the fish from other places in the world instead of your own country, where you're having such big conservation benefits and results. But in the end, that benefit gets that conservation effort doesn't happen as well as you wanted it to be in the first place. Like I don't remember right now the numbers that I came up with, but it showed that if you let's say you cut down the fishery in one part of the US and you keep that market active, you will have hundreds of turtles bycatch in, let's say, Brazil or South America or whatever the fish is coming from. So you're saving turtles in one part of the world, but taking them from another one. So that affects the global population of that species, even though they are in different ocean basins.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And then after you finished at Scripps, you decided to hop across the coast again and make your way to the East Coast, and now you're in Florida. So what's your research in Florida look like right now for your PhD?
Yeah, exactly. I went from the kind of desert and ocean to the swamp, and it was a really interesting decision. I really liked it. It was a big change from the dry to the humidity, eternal humidity in Florida. So here at UF, I'm doing something different because I like versatility in my life. So I decided to use or dive into the use of drones and drone technology for sea turtle conservation. So drones have been used or have been implemented in conservation and ecology projects throughout the world, mainly in areas or inland or areas where you can use it to see species underwater, or where conditions environmentally are much calmer, that you don't have constant wind, or the water you can see the bottom, like Bahamas or Mediterranean, Australia. So when I realized that the drones are not really implemented in places where you can't see through the water, I thought, wait a minute, that could actually work if you're not trying to find the turtles underwater, if you're trying to find the animals at the surface. So I thought that it was worth looking into and see if I could use this technology to do research in places like where I'm from, where you have chocolate for water, and in areas where the water is actually really murky because it's an estuary area. And that, I thought it was going to be interesting to be applied or used by managers or park rangers or nonprofits that have a really low budget and really restricted amount of people or time to do research. And this drone technology, with you spending a certain amount of money for something that you can buy even at a Best Buy or something like that, you can accomplish a lot of data and a lot of lines of research with one flight. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to be used by this kind of, people, organizations, or management offices to do long-term monitoring or evaluation of, fisheries or MPAs and stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing. The thing is that most of the protocols and methodologies developed for using drones are in areas where you can see the bottom and you can see the turtles laying there in the water, not in my area. So a lot of my research ended up being trying to come up with ways of using them in areas like mine, which are not optimal at all. So luckily, I already got data in Argentina, and now in December, I'm gonna fly out and go to Uruguay and use drones to do population studies in an MPA in Uruguay. So I'm really excited about that.
And so far, I'm not sure if you can even share it, but the data from Argentina, what has it shown you?
That one, you can see the turtles. Thing, like I talked with many people about doing the surveys with the drones there, and they said, you won't see anything. I don't think that will work. And the first thing that I got was images of turtles in my area. I was like, yay. So it showed that one, it works. Two, you need to be very specific in about how you do certain things, because methods or protocols from other places won't work because of the water, the wind, where you are, and stuff like that. So you need to have adaptation on what you want to do and how. And it also showed that I could get a lot of information on behavior, habitat use, many things that we didn't think it was going to be possible with drones. And we can use it also for dolphins. I actually saw endangered dolphins in the same area, which normally the surveys are done with airplanes, and they are expensive and dangerous, actually.
Well, maybe you're, a trailblazer setting the way for future research and transitioning completely from, like you're saying, any type of dangerous maneuvers or mechanisms to drones, which are safer and probably more affordable.
Drones are really cost effective because they are not, if you're thinking about a drone that the military use, it's not economic or anything, you can't even get them. I'm talking about aircrafts that can be bought in a supermarket, maybe not a supermarket, but online for a few $1,000s, and you can go and do research. And because of that, you don't have to rent a plane, which is really expensive and dangerous for the researchers that go in. And also, if you're trying to do surveys in the water, you will need a boat. That means a lot of money, a lot of fuel, carbon footprint is huge. With a drone, you would be reducing all of that. So for low budget nonprofits or governmental organizations, it's a really interesting proposed method, if you may. And I have contacts in Argentina from a lab that I was working with before that are already interested in trying to go and do surveys for endangered dolphins in the same area that I was in the future. So it is looking good.
That's really exciting. Wow. Well, I guess if you could share a little bit, if any, similarities and differences in conservation efforts that you've participated in Argentina or throughout South America, or even just research in general, in comparison to the work that you've seen, either here in San Diego or where you're at in Florida, international, like, do you notice a difference or similarities, and what could be done better or what's being done really well?
That's a hard question. But I think there are a lot of similarities in many ways, and there are things that are way different. Being at Scripps or even here at UF, the schools by themselves have a lot of resources that my university in Argentina didn't have. I remember the first thing that I said in one of our in the summer class when we were going to the lab, I saw one microscope per student for just the class. And in my university, we had a microscope per 10 students. So you have here, there are a lot of resources that are given in my country or South America in general. We don't have that many of those things. However, the eagerness and positivity and the energy to do conservation, I would say it's really, it's basically the same. People are trying to do what they can with what they have and trying to make an effect or a good impact on their fields with however they can. And I think that is something really, something that has to be acknowledged in places with lower amount of resources, because we end up doing a lot of things with almost nothing in equipment, or we are using equipment that it's kind of old because we can't afford the newer versions. And here in the US, you have more of those resources. I would say that those are the main differences. And here, I guess you have a lot of permitting issues and a lot of time to get permits that in our country, in my country, it's a little bit less. But that I see it as a negative thing for my country, because we don't require that many steps to make sure we are not doing something wrong. And here, when you get to do it, you know you're doing the things by the rules, according to every regulation that you could think of, and you're not going to cause any harm, or the possibility of getting any harm is really low. Like I remember one of my lab mates, when I started here at UF, he just had his permit approved to go and capture some turtles. And that process took almost 2 years. Wow. Whoa, that's one, that's intense. And two, with the time that I've been here, I realized why it takes so long and why it's so important to have it. So definitely there are differences, and definitely there are similarities on what you can accomplish and why you want to accomplish it. Because in the end, we are all working for the same goal, ocean conservation, or in my case, turtles specifically. And as I said, there's a global population of turtles, and it doesn't matter if you're working in San Diego or in Argentina, And I think that's the same thing for most of the species that are endangered around the globe.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm super clear on that one.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that, well, you have a perspective that a lot of viewers and people in general don't have. A lot of people haven't been able to come from one country and been able to do research in another and really be able to see like the pros and cons, and like you said, what each nation could be doing better or does well.
Yeah.
So
something to add here. Sometimes people in the US I see as, I don't want to sound really bad here, but it's kind of spoiled because you have access to things. And for that part, it would be awesome for people to see what you can accomplish with less amount of things, to get a sense of, wow, you can do it. Great. Damn good for you. That's something that I've been seeing as well. People that go from here to South America, and they start asking, like, do you have that equipment? No. So how do you do it? Well, we do this and that. It's like, oh wow. So it's amazing to come from South America and do research here, but it's amazing, I guess, from people from here to go to South America, because they have to relearn how to do things with less amount of equipment or resources, I guess.
Yeah, they definitely have to adapt and overcome, because
it's a good exercise.
Adjust. Yeah, definitely. And it, like you said, will show, if anything, how fortunate we are to be able to have the resources to do the research that we do here in the US.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you have a turtle tapestry hanging, and I'm curious, would your favorite animal be penguins or turtles or something completely different?
No, well, definitely turtles. However, penguins have a sweet spot in my heart. I started with penguins. they are the reason why I'm here. So penguins are always going to be there. But turtles are glorious. So
is there a specific penguin and specific turtle that you favor more than others?
Yes, but I think that's just because it's the amount of time that I spend working with them. So megagenic penguin is the most common penguin in Argentina. And the green turtle, which is the first turtle that sea turtle that I ever saw and started working with. So those are my two species. But all of the species of sea turtles are amazing and wonderful, the same as penguins, although I haven't seen all of them. But yeah, those would be my two favorites.
Yeah. Well, one last question. So a lot of our viewers are watching because they're interested in conservation and maybe have dabbled in it a bit or have never and really don't know where to begin. And we have viewers of all ages. So what would you suggest as a baseline, a starting point to get involved in conservation efforts in their local community?
Well, I think that the key word that you just said is local community. I think the first step would be to search or do some digging on what people are doing around you if you're in a coastal area. So starting with that, one, you're supporting local NGOs or local nonprofits or organizations. And then two, you get something close by that you could get a feel of how it works and stuff like that. However, if you are not in a coastal area or you're not really interested on what you have around, I would say start going a little bit farther and don't be afraid of going far to search it. Like I started in my hometown with penguins. However, with the turtles, I went to Uruguay. I got out of my country. I traveled quite a few kilometers to get to Uruguay, to the other side of Uruguay and the border, to start working in a really small nonprofit. And I just went to do a volunteering program, and now I made a career out of it. So I would say that the most important thing is not to be afraid of exploring and take the chance to give it a chance, because maybe it's not for you, but maybe it is your passion. And if it is your passion, just follow it because it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You're an impressive woman, and I'm so fortunate to have had this conversation with you.
Yeah, it's fun.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not that I can think of. Just as I said, if you think you have the passion for this, for conservation, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. It requires a lot of work. We're not gonna lie here. It does take time and work, but I think the effort is worth it. So don't be afraid of going for it. And maybe you'll end up in somewhere in the world doing what you love with maybe a species of penguin or bacteria in the ocean. Who knows?
Insightful words. Well, thank you, Napi, again for chatting with me. Thank you. And for our next Ocean Steward Spotlight, please join us for Shima Abadi on November 19th.
Yeah, I think, this in the screen you can see the information for Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for the nonprofit that I work in Uruguay. It's the only organization that works with sea turtles in Uruguay. So if anyone wants to look at him, I am a little bit biased, but the organization and the people working in the organization are awesome. And we do a lot of volunteering programs or education programs. So if you want to check it out, please go to Instagram, Facebook. You'll see everything that we do over there.